Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media. Just taking a look at the 2012 trade paperback release of Penguin, Pain and Prejudice. This is from the early days of the New 52 from Greg Hurwitz and Simon Krudensky. And what we like to do with this channel is just give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across this book in the wild. So we'll just go over, of course, the exterior, bonus material, a few of the art and plot points, and a brief review at the end. Now, even before getting started, this particular story, its, I guess, claim to fame, is that it's very similar to the prose and ideas of course, Batman the Killing Joke. So, where this book, of course, went into the motivations and manias of the Joker, even the origins in a certain sense, this is very similar in that fashion, although I will admit it's a bit more surface level. But you still get to figure out, what drives the psyche of the penguin, right? So, in that light, just a brief on the exterior here. Your typical New 52 spine. This is a cover from, of course, the second issue of the series, and just some internal work from Kudrensky himself. You know, it's funny, I never noticed this before, but it actually even mentions the similarity with the Killing Joke. Interesting. That's actually the first time I've ever noticed that. Anywho, in terms of the bonus material, there's not much in terms of, sketch work or interviews. So you only get like a few pages of that here. But thankfully, what you do get is a bit of a bonus story from prior to this, back in 2008, when Jason Aaron worked on, of course, Joker's Asylum here. And the one thing about this story, yes, its art is significantly different. The one thing I like about it is that it keeps this motif of his eyes turning red, or should I say, killer red, anytime he's wronged. There you go. So I appreciate that. That's probably the one aspect I would take from this story. I mean, this one's good for what it is, nice and brief, but definitely we're here for the meat and potatoes, the Pain and Prejudice storyline. Now, Greg Hurwitz, he's more of a street level writer. He's actually more of a novelist. You might know him from The Orphan X. My exposure to him was from, I think it was The Killing Clause and The Program. So more so straight up literary proses. But he did work with Marvel in the early 2000s with street level heroes. So, Moon Knight, uh, of course, Wolverine, Punisher, and Fool Killer. Fool Killer was actually pretty good. But yeah, even when he came over to DC, he predominantly just stuck with the early days of the New 52. So, the Dark Knight series or Detective Comics, and then this guy right here. Now, just to give you, I guess, a positioning of the story, because it's the New 52, it's the retelling. So a lot of the, mythos of the character has already been established. So he's already an all mobster. He's already a quote unquote businessman, a burgeoning socialite of sorts. So, he's always trying to get in with the crowd. He already has the Iceberg Lounge up and running, and he's already has a few run-ins with Batman already. So in that light, you're getting more so, thankfully, just a quick little overview of, his life story, so to speak. What kind of drove him to being very insecure and very materialistic. And yes, right off the bat, yeah, you're just jumping right into the zeitgeist of, the modern Penguin, so to speak. But the one thing that I love about this man, or should I say the interesting aspect of the Penguin, is when he gets angry, or when I should say when you've wronged him, man oh man, does he go after you in such a unique way. And like I mentioned, when he does get mad, like for instance, this guy had the unfortunate, mistake of almost mocking him. He didn't even say it out loud, but he almost did it. Uh, Instantly, you see the killer red aspect of him. And yes, when what Penguin wants, Penguin gets. So sure, he may go off as a legitimate businessman, but he's all about that black market. And man, when he wants something, he doesn't care. As a matter of fact, ironically, he goes after Gotham's one percenters to, inflict his crimes. And man, is it ever brutal. That's one thing I was very surprised with this story years ago. Yeah, like you're just seeing just straight up murder in this book. So very serious tone. And yeah, I like how it flashes back and forth with, of course, his past and whatnot. But speaking of how I mentioned, when he goes after you, he goes after you. Well, I like his philosophy where if you've wronged him, he doesn't go after you or try to kill you. He destroys the world around you. So he'll go after your family. He'll go after your job. He'll go after your neighbors, your livelihood in general. And he basically makes you break down. Like, yeah, you might as well be a living dead man. And like I mentioned about that whole Killer Red aspect, you do get this constantly throughout the book where the highlighted panels of, I should say, vicious intent is always highlighted with these red marks. I love that aspect. Nice little touch. And as mentioned, you do get your brief run in with Batman right off the bat. Thankfully, he doesn't bog down the story too much. It's more about Penguin and his relationships with, his mother and his paramour that you'll meet later. But what I like about these early pages of this issue is you get an instinct of Penguin and his insecurities and his body dysmorphia. So he kind of looks up to Batman in a very vain, materialistic way, where yeah, he wishes he had that body, as you can see here. He even the way he talks about himself, he almost regards himself as the good guy throughout the book. So very, very twisted in that sense. But as you go through the story, there's a very interesting angle where, yes, he's always trying to please his mother, so it has a bit of that Oedipus Rex idea. Even the way he goes after people, it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of Greek tomes taken from this. So, as mentioned, with the way he destroys the world around you, that's very similar to, like, what's that story? The Euripides story. I think it was, what, Iphigenia? Iphigenia, that's it. Where you're cursed for not doing the right thing. All you have to do is one simple thing to correct it, and if you don't, the world is destroyed around you. Similar idea here. And also, even in the sense of the Oedipus Rex, the Sophocles story, yes, he does have a certain almost unhealthy relationship with his mother, always trying to please her, that kind of thing. And I guess I must have been spot on with the whole Greek referencing, because his eventual paramour, his love interest, is a blind woman, and it's so perfect for a guy like him who's so worried about his image and all that, his vanity. That the woman that he's attracted to the most is this blind woman here, and she's likewise attracted to him. But interestingly enough, he's so insecure he will not even allow her to touch him, because at least with some blind folks, they can read a lot and even sometimes more detail in things just by touch. But he manages to woo her or whatnot. Now, of course, I won't go too far into the sad part of the story. But I just love this particular page here where, he's lost his family, or should I say, through the years, he's lost his family through many different ways, let's put it that way. But when he loses his mother, it really shatters him. And I like that angle. And at the same time, you still have this possessive, greedy aspect of him, even just by reading these panels here. But very on point. I was always impressed with this book, man. And I always like the little nods to Joker in it. He does show up a few times, and you just open the door and there he is, just doing something crazy. I appreciate that much. So not bad in that sense there. But as I mentioned, I won't go too much into the ending or anything like that. But I will say this: this is a definite worthy read. I'm more of a fan of hardcovers, as you guys probably noticed with previous videos. But this is the only way you can get this guy here. It is kind of becoming rare, so I would strongly suggest, finding it in a library or even reading it digitally, because it hasn't been released in any other format since. But it's definitely a worthy read, that's for sure. But hey, this isn't about me. This is more so, what you guys think, or, what your impressions of it. Maybe you've come across this already. Maybe, you've heard of it, just want to get into it in some fashion. But hey, I wouldn't mind hearing your comments down below nonetheless. Y'all folks take care, and of course, enjoy the rest of your day.